Fun fact, the first box joint was opened in 1740 by Johann Sebastian. It was later renamed
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer. Work smarter.
Here on Woodworking for Mere Mortals, I'm dedicated to demonstrating easy and simple woodworking techniques and projects to get you up and running, making cool stuff without a lot of hassle and frustration. I like to do these step-up videos from time to time to demonstrate that just because something is more advanced doesn't mean it has to be difficult or complicated. A box joint is a very strong way to join boards together because there's so much surface area for gluing. Plus, it looks great on your projects. Your friends and family will be amazed. There are a lot of terrific adjustable jigs you can buy or build that will allow you to create box joints of all different sizes. If you plan on making a lot of projects with box joints, a dedicated machine makes sense, but chances are you only need to make an occasional box joint. In this video, I'm going to show you the absolute easiest way to make box joints without having to build a complicated jig. You can make this jig on the fly in minutes and get on with your project. For my method, you'll need a table saw and a stack of dado blades. This is a fairly inexpensive set of dado blades. If you're interested, I'll leave a link down in the description. Start by installing a set of dado blades to whatever width you want the fingers of your joint to be. I can use my regular insert plate for this stack. If it were any wider, I'd have to use a homemade plate with a wider throat. Next, raise or lower the depth of the blades to match the thickness of the wood you're going to use for your project. For this example, I'm going to use regular 3/4 inch lumber. Then grab a scrap piece of 3/4 inch or 18mm plywood to use as a fence. I have one of these fancy pants kind of miter gauges that a viewer sent me a while back, but chances are you probably have something like this that came with your saw. So I'm gonna do the demo using my old miter gauge. Hold the plywood tightly against your miter gauge and cut a notch somewhere near the center of the board. I need to reinstall my regular blade so that I can cut a rod that will fit into that notch. Of course, you could also cut these rods using a different saw and you wouldn't have to change this out. Now glue that short piece into this notch. So it sticks out on one side. You just want to make sure that on the back side it's not protruding any. I've reinstalled my dado stack to the same height it was before, and now that this pin has had a few minutes to dry, I can set it up against my miter gauge. Slide the pin to one side of your dado stack using that extra rod as a spacer to measure the distance between the pin and the edge of the blade. Once you've got that set, clamp your fence to your miter gauge to keep it from moving. And double check to make sure that space is still accurate. You don't have to, but if you screw this to the miter gauge, it'll make it easier to line it up if you ever need to use it in the future. With that set, now you're ready to make your box joints. Start by taking one end of your workpiece and butting it up against the pin and cutting a notch. The first cut will go all the way through the fence. Then take the notch in your workpiece and drop it over the pin and make another cut. Keep doing this all the way down the rest of the board. Your last cut probably won't be a full finger or notch. In this example, the finger turned out to be a small sliver, but that's okay. So here's the important part. You need to start your next board with a notch on the end rather than the finger. The way to line that up is to flip your first board around and drop it onto the pin, then butt your next board up along its edge. Pull away the first board and cut the first notch in your second board. And then continue all the way down like on the first board. The last cut on this board will leave a shallow notch to match the thin finger on the first board. course, to assemble this, you'd want to add some glue inside of each of those joints, but it's pretty strong even without the glue. Depending on the width of your boards and the width of your dado stack, you might get lucky and have all of the fingers be about the same size. It's a good idea to run a couple of tests before cutting your actual work pieces. If the fingers are protruding, lower your dado blades, you're cutting too deep. But if they're sticking out just a little bit, you can just sand them flush. Hey, before you go, I'd really appreciate you supporting the show by sticking around for part 2 of Sleeper Things. Things are getting a little stranger this month. Phil? If you can hear me, talk to me with the lights. You're there. What are you trying to say? You don't know where you are, but you're comfortable? And you're in the land of OEM? Dear God, Casper, I get it now. You're sleeping on an OEM, an obsessively engineered mattress.
It's sold at a shockingly fair price.
I get it, everybody knows all that, but how do I get you back? Wait, what? You're not in any hurry? This is all my fault. I'm the one who told you could try out a Casper mattress free for 100 nights in your own home.
And that you can take $50 off any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/WWMM and using the promo code WWMM at checkout.
You didn't have to go to the underneath to take advantage of that deal. Casper would have delivered a mattress free to your front door. Okay, Phil, I'm coming for you. So if you want to use this same jig again, just set up the same dado blades as before and drop the notch over them and screw the fence to your miter gauge and you're good to go. You could save several of these for common sizes. Well, I hope you try out some box joints on your next project. They don't have to be complicated, and this method is a simple way to step up your woodworking game. If this is your first time here, welcome. I post new woodworking videos on Fridays, and I'd love to have you take a moment to subscribe. Also, I want to remind you about my second channel, HGMM, and welcome Jamie to the team. She's going to be helping us out with urban homesteading and sustainable living. Check out her first video on what you need to know before raising backyard chickens. And if you're a fan of geeky, nerdy crafts, check out her channel, Some of This and That. Link in the description below. Thanks for watching, everybody.